Thank you for tuning in to the Capital Connections podcast hosted by Kisher Capital. I'm the current CEO of Kisher Capital, Eric Schlosser. We help people connect their finances to their future. And today I am super excited to be joined by our strategic partner, local realtor, Taylor. Taylor, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Eric. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you on today and excited to get to talk a little bit about what you do. So really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your family. Tell us some of your story.
Yeah, so I was born and raised on a farm just outside of Rochelle. Grew up there, and I am now married to my wife. Been married for 3 years, and I've been a realtor for 6. Have 2 brothers, and still in the Ogle County area.
Awesome. How big was the wedding when you guys got married?
I think we had about 180 people-ish. You know, you always invite more, and then a portion don't show up. But I think that's what actually attended. And we actually had our wedding out on the farm. So it was pretty cool. We had a tent set up. It was a lot of work. We tried to save money, but when you have to pay for bathrooms, it's and chairs and a lot of things that venues already have in place, it changes the financial outlook of the wedding. But it worked out. It was great.
Good. Now, you said you got married on a farm and you were raised on a farm. Was it same location?
Yep, same location, same farm. So it was pretty cool. Of course, my dad thought that was awesome. That's where his roots are. So he appreciated that as well. It worked out well because it was right after COVID too, when a lot of venues were limiting occupancy. So we didn't have that issue.
Yeah, but that's a huge blessing, and sounds like it was a great day. And obviously you're here now 3 years later. You've been a realtor for 6, like you mentioned. And how did you get started as a realtor? How did you get interested in what you're doing today?
So taking you back about 7 years, I went to school. I actually liked to farm. And so that's what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to pursue a career in agriculture. And so I pursued a career in agribusiness economics, graduated in 2017, was working in that field for about 2 years, decided, it's time for me to move out of the parents' house and buy a house of my own. Renting for me just never seemed like an option. I figured if I'm going to rent, I might as well stay at home. So upon looking at homes, I realized that financially it'd be quite difficult. I was looking at homes where I was pre-approved, ready to go financially, but after the mortgage payment, PITI as we call it in real estate, that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, that payment, along with groceries, daily expenses, my gas, things like that, I had about $300 set aside at the end of each month. And that just didn't seem feasible. So I kind of went back to the books. I started reading a little bit, did some more research, came across this thing called house hacking. And house hacking is when you buy a property, many times it's a duplex or 3-unit property, live in one side and rent out the other. And what that allowed me to do was purchase a property. It was $1,200 a month was my payment. Rent from the tenant was $700, so I was living off of $500 was my obligation for the mortgage payment. So that helped a lot. And in that process, that research, reading books, I became very interested in the world of real estate. So I wanted to fully immerse myself in that field. And so after purchasing that property, about 2 months later, actually, I quit my full-time job and became a realtor full-time.
Wow. So what I'd be interested to hear your perspective on is I feel like there's a lot of people out there that talk about house hacking. It's so cool to hear that you've done that before. What would you say for anyone who's listening or watching this podcast that they're interested in house hacking? I mean, you've got experience and you know a lot about that. So what would you say are maybe a couple tips or things to consider if you're going to be interested in that?
Yeah, I'd say, get in line with someone that knows what they're doing, right? A real estate professional, realtor that has maybe done it or is familiar with that term in general. But also do a little bit of research, make sure you're financially qualified. And this can be done. It doesn't have to be a duplex, because I know that right now there's limited amount of duplexes, threeplexes, triplexes as they call them, for sale. So this can be done with a single family home where maybe it's a 3-bedroom. You have a friend, if you're single, guy or girl, where you are in one room and then you rent out the other rooms to your friends, so you can do it that way. That's a popular thing in college to do too. So that way you don't have that full mortgage obligation. So do a little bit of research, connect yourselves with someone who's done it before or who knows what the ropes are, and they can lead you down the right path.
I think that's great. I think there's a lot of people out there who have heard the term but don't know what it looks like or don't know what's possible. So it sounds like that's something that you can help people with, and that's something you're familiar with as well.
It is, yeah. It's a very powerful tool. Actually, my wife and I still house hack to this day. And when we were dating, she purchased a duplex. I convinced her to do that. And hers being nicer than mine, once we got married, we moved into hers, and it's great. So that's helped us financially get so far.
Hmm.
Whereas if we had the single family house, we'd be scraping by.
Hmm.
And it's a great thing that I think more people should be doing or considering at least.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth taking a look at. Again, a lot of people that talk about it online, but it's cool to hear your perspective and just see a little bit behind the scenes of, here's how I got started. Here's what we did. Even like with your wife, having a duplex and being able to go to the other one is really a great benefit. It's definitely something I think if anyone's listening out there, definitely connect with Taylor and talk a little bit more about that if you're interested.
Yeah, yeah, would be happy to discuss with anybody that's listening, the option and see if it's right for them.
Yeah. Love it. I know we're talking about house hacking a little bit. Let's talk about some of the people that you find yourself working the most with, or, people that you don't tend to work often with if you work with a lot of people.
Yeah, I think all over the board. When I started out, it was mostly first-time home buyers, but as of recently, it's everything from first-time home buyers or people with families, looking to expand and grow, and they need a larger home, or people that are downsizing, people that are retiring and downsizing, and then dabbling a little bit with investors. I have some investors that I've been working with, and they're great too. Some of them also been doing the house hacking strategy, and it's worked well for them.
Mhm.
I don't do too much commercial, so I've done a little bit, but that's not my bread and butter.
Got it. Okay.
So,
And do you specialize, or maybe are involved in both sides regularly? Do you have a specialty in selling or buying real estate, or do you just across the board, you cover that?
I don't really have a specialty. Um, I enjoy both. I enjoy working with first time home buyers and guiding them through the process, because there's a lot of things to learn and
Hmm.
a lot of ropes for me to walk with them through and teach along the way. And that's my goal too, Eric, is not just to help you as a buyer purchase a home, but to assist you with a better understanding of how the process works so that when you do it again, it's more familiar.
Yeah, I think that's great. Love that. Um, we obviously, so my wife and I, right, we bought our first home with you, and it was a wonderful experience. You made it extremely easy. And we ended up buying the second property we saw, which was wonderful too. We were able to get into something right away. Uh,
Made my life easy, that's for sure.
no, we love the property, and you did a great job with us. So for anyone who's listening or watching out there, that obviously hasn't worked with you or connected with you, tell us a little bit about just your process and what it looks like to work with you.
Yeah, so the process is going to vary a little bit depending on if you're a first time home buyer, if you've bought 3, 4 homes.
Mhm.
Um, but I'd say overall, my goal, whether you're buying or selling, is just to make sure that I know your ultimate goals, right? Because everyone has different goals. And so, apart from knowing how many bedrooms and bathrooms or how big of a yard you want in your new home, it's more important that I make sure that we're staying within budget, with where you want to be price wise, what your ultimate goals are for the future, right? Maybe it's a 5-year home, maybe you want to be there longer. So there's other things to consider about a home purchase or a home sale,
Mhm.
when knowing those specific details.
I think that's huge. I think it's really important to know that you're looking out for the budget, because oftentimes, and maybe this isn't common for everybody, right? But maybe some misconceptions about a realtor could be, well, if I'm approved for more and I buy a larger home, the realtor is also going to profit from that because there's a percentage of that purchase or sale. So, given that, I love that you stay within budget and that you're really focused on, not only what people are looking for, but making sure that it's going to work for them long term. You're really looking at what they're trying to accomplish.
Right, right. That's important to me because otherwise, you're right. We do get paid on commission, so usually the more a home sells for, the more we make. Not always, but many times that's the case. But that's that's a that's a bonus. That's not my primary objective. Obviously, want to stay in this business for the long term, and so having those repeat clients, it just being ethical in my work is so important to me.
Yeah, and I can definitely say for us, like absolutely saw that working with you. If you're listening or watching, definitely reach out to Taylor if you're looking to get a property. He will take great care of you. And if you find, your house in the first 2 homes you look at, he'll be really happy too. So
That helps. It's not always the case. Eric is definitely not average as far as that goes. They knew exactly what they wanted and what they were looking for. But it's okay if you don't.
Yeah.
Because many times it might take, I'd say the average is probably 8 homes.
Sure.
7, 8 homes that people have to look at. Because you really don't know what's out there. Even some people really like the first home. But they don't know what else is out there. It was nice to look at a few so you have an idea of what's out in the market and everything.
Definitely, yeah. So we talked a little bit about, I brought up maybe the misconception of like, if you're approved for more and you buy a home or, you sell the home for more, the realtor is going to benefit from that, which personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with. But on the topic of misconceptions, can you talk a little bit about what people maybe misunderstand about realtors or maybe some big misconceptions people have?
Yeah, I think TV shows and movies have misinterpreted what our duties and what our job actually looks like on the day-to-day. I mean, people think that we just open doors and drive fancy cars and wine and dine people, and that's really not the case. Actually, the statistic is nationally 85% of realtors will fail within the first 5 years. And so me going into year 6, it's really reassuring that this is my best year. So I'm grateful and blessed for all my clients out there that have allowed me to keep doing this and stay passionate about this. But yeah, our job, I'd say about 85-90% of my work is actually done behind the scenes, doing research and following up with title companies, home inspectors, appraisers, attorneys, things like that people don't really see. I mean, yesterday I had a seller pre-sign and she left the paperwork at her house. A unique situation, and we always run into unique situations. But I had to go up to Rockford, grab the paperwork, and take it to the title company. That's not something that people normally think about. And then we had an issue that I won't go too deep into, that it was about an hour and a half on the phone between the plumber and the seller and the attorney and the buyer's agent. I mean, there's so much communication that's done that people don't really think about. And that time is spent is not really accounted for. It's not seen from the outside in. But it's something that's a necessity if you want to be a good realtor.
Yeah, and I think that's huge too. Like you talked about, 85% of people don't make it past year 5, and getting you into year 6, right? To see like your work and dedication to what you're doing, to see how that's going to play out for you in the long term. I know not only I, but for our team at Kisher Capital, we're really excited to see all that you continue to do. You do a great job, and just love to hear you kind of talk about what you're passionate about too. I think something that I've experienced, and maybe you have, is when you work with someone who doesn't love what they do, it's very evident.
It is very evident. Yes, it is. It is.
So it's awesome to hear a little bit about your story. Hear a little bit about the different ways that you help people and different people that you serve. When you were getting started, kind of going back to like 7 years ago, what we would wonder is, how did you connect your finances to what you're doing? And it sounds like a big part of that might have been the house hacking, but was there anything else that you did?
Well, I'd say before the house hacking I had worked 2 years out of college and I saved heavily. I lived at home, and many of my peers were moving out on their own. They were buying homes or they were renting. They wanted to be away from their parents. And I stuck it out and I stayed at home and saved a lot. And so that savings, having that emergency fund, helped significantly, because my first full year as a realtor was 2020. And as we know, that's when COVID hit, and it was a tough year, and I didn't make hardly any money.
Yeah.
And had I not have house hacked, if I had bought that single family house and was living paycheck to paycheck, I would have had to find another job. I would have had to quit being a realtor, and I would have been part of that statistic that failed within the first 5 years. I would have failed within the first year.
Yeah.
So
2020 is a hard year to start.
It was a tough year. Obviously didn't know COVID was around the corner, but made it through it. And that house hacking, I really attribute the house hacking to me sustaining that financially, that burden of COVID.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Really appreciate you sharing a little bit about how you were able to get into being a realtor, how you're able to stick it out. As we're kind of wrapping up, want to thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate you coming out here. Love getting a chat with you, and so glad that we had you as a strategic partner out here.
Yeah. And it's great to catch up with you, Eric. Great to see you as always, and love to see what you're doing too. You're doing big things, and just great to connect with you.
Really appreciate it. So as we wrap up, for anybody who's listening or watching, is there anything that you want to share with those people who might be listening?
Yeah, I'd say, save. Especially if you have a desire to purchase a home or if you're renting, right? There's a large difference in the net worth of the average homeowner and average renter. I don't know the exact statistics. I think the average renter is worth about 10,000. The average homeowner is about 400 plus. So there's nothing wrong with renting. There's actually a lot of freedom with it. I would recommend that you save. Rely on somebody like Eric or somebody who knows finance to assist you, and save and invest. That's so important. And I would say, ultimately, seek. I saw this thing the other day that said, boredom is focusing on the work to achieve your goals. And if you focus on the goals, you don't think about the effort, all the effort that it takes to get from where you are now to the finish line. And I think that's so important, is to focus on those goals, and you'll achieve them because you won't think about the work. You'll be too busy focusing on that goal to really think about all that work. And, because it's hard when you think about that work. And if you focus on that goal, you'll achieve it with time.
I think that's great. Great way to end it, Taylor. Thank you again for coming on. Really glad to have you. And again, glad to have you as a partner with us.
Glad to be a partner. Thanks, Eric.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Capital Connections podcast. You can reach out to Taylor online. You can go to our website at kishercapital.com. We've got a profile there listed for him. If you're not going to the website, Taylor, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Social media. I'm active on Facebook and Instagram. TikTok is a little lacking. I'm trying to be active there as well. Yeah, you can reach out to me directly, phone, email. If you Google me, you'll find me pretty quickly.
Perfect. Well, again, thanks for coming on. Glad to have you here. Thank you for listening to the Capital Connections podcast. If you're interested in learning more about how to connect your finances to your future, reach out to us by email at info@kishercapital.com. Advisory services offered through Kisher Capital, LLC, an investment advisor registered with the state of Illinois. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients with Kisher Capital, LLC, and its representatives are properly registered or exempt from registration. The information on this podcast is not intended as tax, accounting, or legal advice, nor is it an offer or solicitation to buy or sell, or as an endorsement of any company, security, fund, or other offering. Information provided should not be solely relied upon for decision making. Please consult your legal, tax, or accounting professional regarding your specific situation. Guest speakers are independent professionals and are not employees of Kisher Capital. We do not receive any compensation or referral fees from these individuals or firms. There is no obligation to engage their services, and clients are free to work with any provider of their choice. The information linked to any third-party guests on this podcast is strictly provided as a courtesy and convenience. When using any third-party information provided on this podcast, we make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of information provided by our guests. The information on this podcast is provided as is, and without warranties either express or implied, and the information may or may not be free from error. Your use of the information provided is at your sole risk.